What is going on, people? Welcome back. I hope you're all well. We're going to be checking out the song that I missed off of Meliora by Ghost, which is called Zenith, which I believe was released in 2016 as a redux version of the album. Now, before we get into it, I do want to do some housekeeping because I'm receiving a mixed bag of comments on my Ghost reactions across the board because obviously I started on my Ghost journey with checking out their most recent album, which was Skeleton. And there was an album going into it, to be honest, I didn't really have massive expectations for. I didn't really think that Ghost's sound would be something that clicked with me. Massively mistaken. The album is so fucking good. It's so catchy. But obviously, what comes with that is, and I've had this with a lot of bands where I've gotten into bands late, and I go back in their discography, their older stuff doesn't sound as good, in my opinion. Now, this is where this debate lies, and I'm kind of more curious to bring other people into the conversation here because generally what happens on YouTube is people who enjoy the video and are positive about the video will leave a like in it. I've shamelessly liked my own video here, apologies. And then the people who are maybe disagree with something I say will comment. That's just generally how it works from my experiences on YouTube. So, which is fine. That's why the comments are there. But it does kind of feel overwhelmingly negative when to me it didn't feel like I was being that negative because there's one comment here that isn't negative. This is from TEC Fan 1. They're very respectful of what they're saying. They're not trying to be rude about it. But to me it's I just don't fully agree with what they're saying, and I'll explain my reasons why. So I'll read out the comments. TEC Fan 1 says, I'm going to be honest, listening to Ghost Skeleton first and expecting all of their albums to match that style of arena rock is setting yourself up for failure and high expectations that you will not reach. Ghost was originally known for their doom metal, eerie rock sound, psychedelic rock and progressive rock that is more about the structure of instrumentals rather than huge catchy hooks. It wasn't until their most recent 2 to 3 albums that they started playing more with catchy arena rock. Going into Ghost's older work with a more open mind, knowing it isn't like their new albums and taking time to digest it, is more the way to go. Otherwise, you will be disappointed. So there is some responses here, and there's a response from Daniel who said, I don't get it. How can you listen to the choruses of songs like Ritual, Stand By Him, and Satan Prayer and say it's not catchy? Well, that's a whole different conversation. I mean, music is subjective. So that's the answer to that question is some people might find something catchy and some people just might not. It's the same way that some people find black metal stuff really, really catchy and pleasing to someone's ear. But I'm listening to it and I'm like, brother, what are we doing here? So it's subjective. To me, that comment's a bit of a miss. It's how can you just not see that music is subjective that way? But I will not stray too far from the path of this comment. I hear where this person's coming from with the critique almost that I'm being too focused on Skeleton, which I don't really agree. The way I listen to albums in general and the way I've been going into Ghost's older work is I'll go in and just take it at face value. I'll listen to the album and not have any expectations of it because I've only heard one album and I know it's going back years, so I'm not expecting them to sound as pristine as they do today. It's the same with going back in any band's discography. I'll always expect it to maybe not sound as good production wise and mix wise because that's just what happens over the years. Bands get better when it comes to bringing in new producers, better mixes, just generally better musicians. So I'm not expecting that, and I think that's a fair assessment to not be expecting the absolute best thing in the world. For the most part, some bands have much better, earlier discographies, but from everything I've heard, a lot of people were saying that a lot of the Ghost's newer stuff is probably what will align with me a little better. But I still go in, I don't want to sit through an hour of an album and sit there and be well, I actually just hate this and I'm not going to try. I try my best. I just find it quite hard to accept when people will comment stuff like this where they'll say, oh, look, you've just listened to a full album and you mentioned for conversational purposes, because that's what I'll do. I'll listen to the song and I may not enjoy it. And then I'll try and bring up a conversational piece where I'll say, well, the reason why I don't like this is blah, 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 blah. And maybe this is why I enjoyed their new album so much. So I hear what you're saying because the odd time I might bring it up and say, oh, on Skeleton, they would have done this slightly differently. And maybe that's just a part of it. Maybe I just amn't into their older sound because their sounds have changed. So it does feel to me, and again, this is why I'm doing this on camera and the comments can be opened up for this one. Comments like this, although done very respectfully, feel a little bit kind of pretentious to me, where it's bro, the only reason that you're not enjoying this is because you are listening wrong. Which I know how I've consumed it, despite making some comments that maybe have harped back to my own experiences with the band being their more recent album. it just feels a little bit like, okay, bro just hasn't got it yet. But like, you could, you know, that's like saying you don't like a particular band and I'm just like, oh, well, you don't like them because you just haven't given them enough chance. You like, there's something wrong with your ears up until the point at which you actually just finally get it, which I don't agree with, because I think certain sounds, I've been doing this for years now at this point, there's just certain sounds that I still haven't been able to get into. Like black metal, for example, is like moments that I can appreciate it, but I just know it's not really for me. So to go back to the ghosts conversation that we're having here, I just think that this idea of like, bro, you're just listening wrong is a little bit pretentious to me. That's how I'm interpreting what is going on here. It's like, oh, you're just not giving yourself the chance to listen to it. But it's like, I've just listened to the full album, like actively listened to it. Yes, there is moments where I'm like talking over it, but there is a lot of the time where I can like listen and talk. And a lot of the time when I'm talking, it might be like 3/4 of the way through the song and the song's done nothing to really like perk up my ears. So unless they just randomly spin something around in the last quarter of the song, then the song's kind of a dud for me anyway. Of course, things can change over time, but I'm only doing it off of a first reaction basis. So that's all I can really do. And that's kind of just how it is, I suppose. But again, this isn't supposed to be like an attack on these comments. I'm more than happy to have people comment. Like I see other comments here. There was one, Drew, it's not about the playlist with Ghost, especially not earlier Ghost. It's about theme, atmosphere, and theater. It's kind of a subjective take, because I guess I'm going into it with this idea that I want to just get as many playlisted songs as possible. That's kind of what I want out of a lot of albums. In an ideal world, I would get loads of playlisted songs from an album, but also be able to listen to the album from start to finish, because then it flows as a full project. I understand this argument about like, you know, you should listen to it as the overall theme in this like theatrical piece from start to finish. That's what Ghost is all about. I get it, but you know, that's not really how I've been listening to Ghost. That's not been my experience. So yeah, I don't know if that is even making any sense, but we're going to jump into Zenith right now. This wasn't intended to be a big rant. I just see some comments, and to me, like, I feel quite positive about the Ghost discography. Like, I've given everything a chance, and I've enjoyed some bits of it. I didn't enjoy the older stuff as much, which I think is completely fair. And I'm starting to enjoy their newer stuff a lot more. Like, Meliora was the first album that I added a lot of tracks to my playlist. And going on, people are saying they can't wait to hear me check out all of the newer albums as well, like Prequel and all this, and Imperium, I think. So I'm very much so looking forward to that, because it seems like it's getting closer to my taste. So I just think that like tastes exist in metal music. Like, you're going to have a preference. So some of these comments sometimes can just read like, okay, bro, that taste thing you have, it ain't right. Okay, this taste thing that you got to get rid of this taste, because you're just not listening correctly. It's like, it just seems pretentious. It seems like super fan energy that I've seen with a lot of bands, that it kind of annoys me. But again, this is more of a topic of conversation that I'll be interested to hear other people's opinions on, because that's just kind of how I feel about it now. But I'm more than happy to kind of have my mind altered, and maybe that's not how it was supposed to be interpreted. But a lot of the comments are very positive as well, as you can see here, and I'm looking forward to checking out more Ghost. But let's start with Zenith. Let's go. This mix sounds different. The vocal mix sounds a little bit further back. There's definitely a big brightness to the pianos, and there's like very upfront. Organs.
Perpetual rise, a fall of illusion. Your zenith fades into eternity. Time will soon be gone.
A little bit darker than I expected. Menacing. Slowing down? No? Were they fucking with the tempo there? I don't think so.
You're set free.
This is nice. Missed a note there. Change the key at the end.
Genesis captured, ignited by truth.
Getting that kind of like monotone delivery from Tobias.
It's raptured, a vision to soothe. Devoured by shadows, we cling to the light.
Not a heavy guitar presence in this one, not like a riff orientated track so far.
The bringer of night. Now we're for
Right on cue.
perpetual rise. And fall of illusion, you're seated, fades into eternity. Time will soon be
Smooth like butter. Cool transition over the drum fill. That was like not a bleh, but a bit of a yeah. Had the same effect. It's groovy. Oh, that's satisfying. Epic. Very psychedelic and trippy here. Building again, Tom's coming in. Such tasteful piano keys being used throughout. Okay. That's a nice song. That is one of those songs that I wouldn't be in a hurry to turn off if it came on in rotation. But I feel like first listen, I wouldn't be in like a crazy rush to put that back on compared to some of the other tracks. Now, this is where I feel a little bit conflicted based on my intro and what I was talking about in the intro. It kind of almost limits. That's why I don't love the topic of conversation that I've seen in the comments where it's like, oh, you're just not giving it enough of a chance. Because now it feels like if I say that I'm not really into something, it feels like that kind of gives like, it puts wind in the sails of the people that will just like continuously say, oh, you're just not giving it a chance, or you're not trying hard enough, or you're expecting so much. It kind of like, it's a hard thing to argue against because it feels like they can just come at you from any angle with that. It's like, oh, well, you're just not trying hard enough. It's like, I'm giving this every opportunity that I can. And again, this is not something I would turn off. It's not a bad song. I just think from my experience with the band, they've had better songs in their discography. Now, this one might grow a lot of the things I look for in music, not just like rock music, progressive rock music, psychedelic rock music, whatever you want to call Ghost. I know they have like many different labels, arena rock. I always come back to this like 3 pillar stones that I have. I'm sure people that have been watching my channel for a while are probably sick of me talking about these pillar stones, but I think they're a pretty good guideline for my actual music taste. So what I kind of look for in terms of like playlisting a song, a lot of the time is something that is like undeniably groovy, undeniably melodic, or if it doesn't happen to have one of those things, groove or melody, you know, basic pillar stones of music, I guess, is something that maybe is a little bit outside the realms of traditional things like groove or melody, where maybe it's like a really interesting synth line. It's just something that kind of makes a song stand out from the pack. Now, I know Ghost kind of intrinsically have that, where they are just a little bit unique. Their sound and their flair is just a little bit different. So you could make the argument that by that logic, every Ghost track should probably be a playlist track. Obviously, take those rules with a little bit of a pinch of salt. It's not that literal. But I guess you could make the argument that there's moments of this song that have groove, but I wouldn't consider this song to be like a really, really groovy song. There is melody in there, and a lot of people make the argument for Ghost that their songs are melodic in a uniquely Ghost way, which is like they will take your expectations with a melody and they'll kind of flip it on their head. And then over time, as you listen to it more, you will then come to actually enjoy that melody that maybe you would have enjoyed like a more traditional melody, which is another argument that feels hard to argue with as well, because it's like, I don't like this melody, and people are like, well, you're just not listening to it the Ghost way, which does happen with a lot of these bands. I've seen it with Sleep Token. I'm the biggest Sleep Token fan in the world, but people are just like absolutely fucking ridiculous with what some of the things they say about the band and like how much they are just over the top with their assessment of other people's assessments of the band. But groove, yes, there is a moment or two towards the ends when the guitar comes in. There is a bit of groove in there, but I wouldn't consider this again to be like a really fucking groovy, headbangable song. It's just a solid like car song to me. The melody again might creep in, and I don't think this is necessarily the most unique song I've heard ever. I've heard songs maybe similar even across Ghost discography. It's the same kind of vibe. You know, it's still unique because it's Ghost. So for that reason, this song to me isn't the most appealing song in the world. I don't see myself going back to it that often, unless maybe I'm listening to the Redux version of the album, which I assume this is probably slot in there somewhere nicely. I don't know exactly how it works. Maybe it's at the tail end of the deluxe version. But yeah, that's it. I mean, I had to do this one. A lot of people have commented about it that I had to do it. Before we go into the next 2 albums, I guess you had to get this one out of the way. Makes sense. I probably should have had it included in the deluxe version, but I just forgot. There was so many different comments coming in. But yeah, let me know what you think of my assessment overall, lads. I'd love to start a conversation about that, because it's obviously a touchy subject. I don't want it to come across as if I'm like just rejecting any sort of semi-negative feedback or criticism. That is not the case at all. It's just certain things that kind of irk me a little bit about doing this for so long, where it feels like people are trying to like take your opinion and kind of flip it on its head a little bit and make it out as if you're just like intentionally going into something with this like a negative mindset, which I can assure you is not the case. There has been moments where I've done that in the past. I'm not completely perfect. There's moments where I haven't liked a band in the past, and then I go in and I'm like kind of just on the defensive straight away. But I can assure you with the Ghost albums, although I might refer to, you know, having listened to Skeletor, it doesn't mean that I'm just trying to get everything to sound necessarily like Skeletor. I understand that all projects are going to be different. But the only reason I bring up Skeletor a lot of the time is if I'm just not really vibing with the project that I'm listening to at that moment, and then I'll use Skeletor as a reference to maybe something that I'm a little bit more inclined to enjoy. But that's all, guys. Again, hopefully this doesn't come across as ranty. And yeah, let me know your feedback in the comments. Would love to hear it. Thanks so much for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Make sure you leave a comment as well and let me know. Make sure you're subbed. That's all from me. See you in the next one. The next one should be whatever album's next. Prequel, Imperium, whatever they're called. Delirium, Pelirium, I don't know. See you in the next one, lads. Cheers.